Lights up!
I'm delighted to introduce Sarah Perkins and Lucy Mabbitt from the cast of the Welkin, our next main stage production from the 25th to the 29th of April. Welcome, ladies! Or should I say, Welkin, ladies?
Oh,
God, that was really low, wasn't it? I'm sorry.
And just the first time we've heard that joke.
Oh, was that just the first time I've made that joke, so I feel I'm allowed to get away with it now.
Very
so,
good.
Sarah, you have been a member of Putney Theatre Company for... I want to say about 5 years.
Yes, my first production was January 2018, so joined in 2017, obviously for
Ladies' Days.
For Ladies' Days.
That was a corker,
Studio
listener.
show.
That was a corker. If you didn't see that, you missed a fine one. And now, Lucy, you have joined us this year. Is it really this year?
Last summer.
Was it last
last
summer?
summer. So I think I became a member in August and then did a few auditions and then got into Kinder Transport, which just finished at the end of
February.
So
that was our sold out show in the studio, Kinder Transport.
Yes.
No pressure then, my dear, for this.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So, character-wise now, Sarah, you play Elizabeth Lizzy Luke.
I do indeed.
And Lucy, you play Sally Poppy, who are the main protagonists.
Correct.
The Welkin, set in 1759, and a bit of context is Sally Poppy, your character Lucy, has been convicted of the most heinous crime of child murder, and your lover has already been convicted and hanged.
Yeah.
Da.
Yeah. So I'm playing Sally Poppy, who is accused of the murder of a child whose family she was working for, and both her and her lover are involved in this crime, and he is sentenced to hang, and my character Sally pleads the belly, so she says that she's pregnant.
Pleads the belly, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that term. So pleading the belly meant pleading that you're pregnant, therefore you couldn't be executed.
Yeah, exactly. So the conundrum is that she is now saying that she's pregnant, can't face the death sentence, and so the town has to decide what to do with her. And in order to make this verdict, they ask 12, I think it
A
is.
jury of matrons.
Jury
12
of
matrons are required. And they have already got 11 of them because most of the town obviously have gone to see the hanging. What
Of
a lovely day
course,
out for
because-
everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the Waxes, which is the poor child, Alice Wax, who is our murdered child, they're the landowners, they're the gentry, they are Lord and Lady Wax, very important obviously to the economy of the town, lots of people work for them. So there's a lot of ill feeling in the town against murder in general.
Well, I would hope so.
Unsurprisingly. And they really want to see these two people killed. So, yes, they get that with the lover. And people are very upset when Sally pleads the belly. And at that point, the women realise what's going to happen, but they don't move quick enough. So 11 of them manage to be sort of corralled into a dark, cold room with no water, no food, no nothing, no light, no heat. So, and they need a 12th matron.
So they don't get chosen. It's basically the 11 that didn't move quick enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's pretty much how that happens.
That's
like sheep in a pen.
exactly. Natural
Except one
selection.
of them, except one, or perhaps two. One of them definitely is totally up for this,
Yeah.
wants to be there.
Right.
And a second also, I would say, probably muscled their way to the front of the queue. That's where we sort of, the first scene actually of the play is the only one not set on this day, which is a scene between Sally and her husband. So we're saying roughly that happens, let's say, a week before the rest of the action of the play.
So it sets up nicely. We see what the relationship is with Sally and her husband.
Yeah.
So it sets up nicely with Sally and her husband. So, and it's his evidence that convicts Sally.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's not a very happy marriage that they have, Sally and Fred. But yeah, as you say, the play opens with the scene between them. They're reunited after I have ran off with this man that I have fallen in love with. And this scene is when Sally comes back for the first time in a while. I don't want to say too much because I might give it away.
So she's an unfaithful wife.
Yes.
That is true.
Yes. And so do we think he's feeling a little sour over that?
Just a little bit sour, I think.
So the conviction and the evidence is maybe has been augmented, I'm thinking?
Yeah, there's definitely a prerogative behind it.
So we don't know if it's true or not?
No.
Right.
No.
And then I'm assuming that you get tried by a jury of matrons, which always makes me laugh.
Well,
Sorry.
initially by a jury of men, of course.
Yeah.
And justice being set up by the white man, delivered by the white man, for the white man. So this is very, we also have one of our matrons who was actually really keen. She's quite learned. She actually has got some really good points through the play.
Oh,
and
who's that?
That's our Anne Lavender.
Anne Lavender.
Played by Angel.
Lovely. So there's a voice of reason there somewhere.
Well, it's more that where it kind of starts echoing or bringing up some more relevant contemporary themes.
Yes, I was about to move on to
the
those.
experience of women. But yes, we'll come on to that later then.
Because there's quite a few.
Hold.
Yes, exactly. So the reason why you're now tried by a jury of women is because it is you've pleaded the belly, and I'm assuming that in 1759. Not so dissimilar today that men went, I don't want to know about that, thank you very much.
And also that there wasn't really much information about the woman's body.
Yes, of course.
And science was only sort of just coming into play.
And actually the role of there being a male doctor was very new. It's very fashionable.
Absolutely.
So it's only really started coming to the fore. But up to that point, it was the women. The women did all the work. They delivered the babies. My character is the town midwife.
Yeah.
She learnt her trade from her mother. So she's there at the scene of all the births, pretty much, of all of these women. And sadly some not births or death.
So 1759, it was obviously quite different for women in general. However,
in many ways not.
Which, yes.
A lot of, and it's reflected in the play and some of the language, what they talk about. A lot of the experiences of women haven't changed because they can't change. Physically, women still give birth, although obviously developments with cesareans and and there are fewer deaths with childbirth, but that is still a risk. It does still happen. Miscarriage, again, you can't stop it, and that happens. It's very real for the women in the play. It's very real for women today. Periods, they happen, can't stop that. Menopause, all of these very female themes that get discussed with a light touch. I don't want people to be put off thinking, oh no, there was
it's a vagina monologue.
Yeah, talking about periods. It's not there to make people feel uncomfortable. It's there just because it's a reality of their situation. And that's what they see, And Elizabeth Luke, who I play the midwife, she's there at all these moments for these women. And it creates really strong bonds and friendship, as it does today. So it's just really interesting to see things that haven't moved on as well as those things that have very much changed, and it's set in a world for the women. They're in the middle of the 7 Years' War, so my character's widowed. It's not specific, but I think there's references. Obviously men died in the war, so it's not inconceivable to believe that that's how she's lost her husband. Also, it's quite recent history for the witch trials in the area.
Well, it's kind of sort of 12 Angry Men meets The Crucible meets the Vagina Monologues, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
But men do feature in it. So if they're actually not on stage, although, of course, there are Richard, who plays
Mr. Coombs, yes.
Yes.
So he, the first scene that you see myself and Mr. Coombs in is the second scene of the play. So when we meet Lizzy and Mr. Coombs, that's the second scene of the play. So Lizzy's already had a pretty awful day. So she, in her role as midwife, has spent the last 2 days locked up with Mrs. Lovell delivering her twins. Sadly, one of those twins did not survive. This is the 12th baby in a year that she's lost through delivering. So she's having.
So will she be blamed for that? Do we think in that time? Would we have very much? So not only has she had a bad day at the office, but this is her 12th death in the year, which, as sort of chief midwife, is probably not great for your record, is it?
It isn't, and that adds to the suspicion potentially, and some of the stuff that happens through the play, people do play on that, and therefore Lizzy's reaction when people mention or even reference things like witchcraft or magic, you know, you want to be really removed from that. That's not good for my day job. I don't want that, you know. So this has happened to her. She's also in the middle of her grand wash today. She keeps the town whites bagged. She's a busy woman. She's got multiple children. They're sick, which comes across again in that first scene. You know, like women today, she's multitasking. She's exhausted. She's got work. She's got family. She's got lots of things going on.
She's a busy lady.
She's a busy lady having a bad day. Little does she know it's about to get worse.
So if she's a busy lady and all this stuff is going on, she's basically the sort of the foreman of the jury, if I could be so bold.
You would like to think so. However, she arrives to find a stranger has been put in place as the full matron of the jury. So her nose is most definitely put out early doors in that. And you do see the women through the play really sort of aligning a little bit with Lizzy, because she is, to all intents and purposes, she should be the full matron. That's how they see her. And there's a stranger that's come in. So yeah, there's an interesting dynamic that plays out through that as well. Lots of the characters have their moments really well written, and actually the other actresses are doing amazing jobs with much fewer words on the page and in the script to really create these authentic, real characters that have just brought them to life. It's
Lois
really brilliant.
Who plays Sarah Hollis doesn't even speak.
There's some really beautiful monologues in the show. Hope this doesn't give too much away about the piece, but it's really delicately written, and there are these moments of like really heightened reality, but then a lot of it is, as we've been saying, everyday, realistic conversation that goes on between these characters, which is an actor's dream, really.
Yeah, and they're just getting on with their job. Yeah. So, yes, they have this, but nobody's really wallowing in their misery.
Oh, no, absolutely
at all.
not.
It's very much, that's just the way life is, crack on. And the humour then that comes into the play, which is, you know, quite surprising at times given some of the subject matter. You know, the audience really should know that they are allowed to laugh.
Yeah. Yes,
actually, it is funny. Okay, yes, there's black humour, but there's also outright humour. Don't be afraid. Have a giggle. We'll be happy with that.
Now, Lucy, tell me about Sally, because we've heard quite a lot about the matrons and what their sort of background is and what their day-to-day life is and their chores and challenges. Now, Sally...
Yes, well, she's come from a very troubled background. She has been raised up in a working class family that, there's lots... I don't want to give too much away, but she's had quite a hard start to life, and then she's started working for various families around Suffolk as a maid, as a nursery maid.
Right, so she doesn't have a family herself.
No, and she's just sort of been thrown out into the world. She's married this guy who I think probably... There's not too much information on their relationship in the show, other than the first scene, but I feel like it was probably out of necessity rather than love.
Right. So it wasn't a love match.
No, it's escape for Sally from what is described as a pretty horrible family situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So she gets herself into this awful situation where she has been convicted of murdering little Alice Wax. Now, you kind of think, so your life is on the line. Wouldn't you go out your way to endear yourself to these 12 lovely ladies?
Well, you would have thought so.
Life in the balance.
Yeah, she's a bit of a wild one, Sally. I feel like in the show, it's an absolute moment of release for her. I feel like she's thrown all caution to the wind and just gone, I have to follow my passion rather than... She's had enough, I think. But I feel like there's definite moments in the show where it's hard to find empathy for her, which I think will be interesting to hear what the audience has to say after having seen the show. Because there's definitely been moments in rehearsal where I've gone, God, she is a nightmare.
But as an actor...
But it's also really luscious to play, because it's fun playing the villain, isn't it, really? Let's be brutally honest. So yeah, she can be nasty and really rude to some of the other characters.
And those insults that she comes out with, and that they all come out with, are great. We're
Yeah.
loving the
I hope you're
insults.
pocketing them for use in every day.
100%.
Yeah. 17th century slurs are definitely iconic.
So Lucy Kirkwood, who wrote the play, it's a fabulous script. It's actually very funny. So, dear listener, when you're thinking, I'm dealing with child murder, 12 angry women on stage, and talking about periods, you would be wrong. That is included, but it's very funny. For the other characters, the other women in there, which is very cleverly done, it would be very easy, I think, to make them all caricatures.
Oh, absolutely.
Of, the menopausal woman, the
slightly
grumpy
naive,
one. It's very easy to have pigeonholed each character into that role. But as a cohesive piece of theatre, it's actually really engaging. Favourite bits so far in rehearsals?
Can we say Dickford?
I think you can.
I think we have the lovely Carol Hudson, who plays Sarah Smith. And at times, she, like the rest of us, has been maybe paraphrasing lines.
What? No.
And just created a whole new town. So instead of Tivitshall, it came out as Dickford. And we were, where has she wrong? It's magical. It's a magical moment, and there was a lot of laughter.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Let us
Tricky to get us back.
not crawl into the mind of Carol Hudson.
I don't know how she does it.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. And for those of you who don't know Carol Hudson, which is why don't you, because you're missing a trick, Carol is a very long-standing member of Putney Theatre Company, who also was in Kinder Transport with Lucy. And she, I think, is a character. Did we say that? Yeah. Hilarious.
Yeah.
I want to be like Carol.
Yeah.
When I grow up.
Absolutely.
And luckily, as with all the characters, they're so well written, the chances for these actresses to bring them out, the comedy in it. And we've got Sharon playing Judith Brewer, who tells the best stories. The women there are loving it, are laughing, long and hard, and she just delivers them beautifully. So yeah, there's some really enjoyable moments.
So Lucy, remind me, your favourite part in the rehearsal process so far?
I really enjoyed the first time that we rehearsed at St Mary's Church in that amazing space, like above the church was, just felt the rehearsal room heighten. I don't know why, just being in those sorts of spaces just make everything feel so much more epic.
And as it's set above the courthouse,
well, yeah,
it has a familiar, it's above a space, a community space.
Yeah, it all felt very, very relevant.
Oh, interesting. And of course, now the set, we should talk about that because, as you know, we have quite a large stage area in Putney. And Kim Dyas, who is the director, his vision is to make it, to have those huge proportions. I mean, the fireplace alone, honestly, you could fit a family of 6 in there, couldn't you?
Yeah.
And
it's
huge. And so it's really interesting when you're having those huge proportions, I imagine it's going to make all of you feel much smaller on stage.
And
that's going to be quite an interesting dynamic to see. Obviously, it's in the process of being built. But I think from an audience point of view, that's going to be interesting. Because will you get that feeling of that sort of claustrophobia?
Well, there are 14 of us on the stage, which probably will help, because which has made rehearsals quite fun when they've not been there and we're all sitting in the same chair. We found that.
Musical chair.
When finally people do turn up to rehearsal, you're like,
I'm sitting here.
4 people on one bench. No.
Oh no, can we have that actually? Maybe throw that into the rehearsal process today. I think we should do musical chairs version. Yay!
Yeah.
Yes.
And Veronika, the assistant director, bless her, pretty much knows the whole play off by heart because she's been reading in for everybody at some point. Because half the cast have been ill.
Oh my God! Yeah, of course.
Carol and I didn't join for a little while because of Kinder Transport, so we were late coming into rehearsals. Yeah, and then there's been battles with COVID, which has been.
And on and
annoying.
on it goes. COVID keeps on giving, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Hopefully it means, hopefully that means everyone's done, so we won't get any for sure.
But it also means that you do have the luxury of having an understudy.
Yes.
But only one.
Yeah, just one.
For 13 women, that's pretty tricky.
So Richard Seahouse better not be ill.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. Well, we're all right, because Alexei, who plays Fred, the husband, is only in the first scene, so he's our standby. Not sure if he knows this yet. Alexei, note for you.
Exactly. Start learning your lines. Other people's, I mean.
Yeah, and maybe he could pop on a wig and become one of the women. I think
I'd love to see that.
Perfectly possible.
Well, I'm sure there's a version out there.
Yeah.
So, as an audience member, what are we in for? What are we going to get? What is going to be our chief takeaways from the Welkin?
I hope people will, because it's quite thought-provoking, so I hope they do ponder on the themes. We've already said about how Sally is an unsympathetic character. She creates very little empathy. So does she deserve mercy? You know, it's a big question that we've been dealing with, that the different characters in the matrons have towards her. Their feelings towards her are very complicated.
Because it's very easy to just paint her as a sort of pantomime villain in that way.
Yeah.
But it really is it does touch on quite serious themes of, well, public execution, for one. Of course, this is 1759. But if Sally was a nicer person, would that mean even if she had committed, because she was nice and sweet, would you let her off? Or is it because she's doesn't play into your gallery of being trying to get you on side, therefore she deserves to be hanged? So it does open us as an audience member, I think, watching that. You do start feeling quite conflicted yourself, thinking it would be so much easier if Sally was lovely, go, oh, let her off. Although my question for you now is, sorry, Lucy Kirkwood, if she's pregnant, can't we just wait till 9 months and then we'd know for sure?
Well,
Or is that therefore no play?
Sort of
with the audience.
It would be a very quick one.
When I read it, I was thinking, well, there was one simple way of doing this, people.
Well, I do feel, though, at the end, as we sort of touched on, that the Waxes are a very important family.
Right.
They have lost a child, and actually the facts are there. She has been involved, to what extent we will find out. But so there is an element of guilt. And with the pressure from the ruling class, you know, they want to see that resolution. And horde mentality, you know, they're out there, they've all whipped them all cells up. You hear the noise ebbs into this room on various points through the play. The language that is hurled, you know, the abuse that we hear from the crowd, but
So
mob mentality, baying
yes.
crowd. You know, it's hard to not give them an outcome. So it's very much on these women to prove that she is with child, which is a very difficult thing to do because she's very early on.
Back in 1759.
Yeah,
Back in
exactly.
1759.
No scans
very
then.
early on in any pregnancy. You know, it's hard. There's lots of different ways they try and find out. Again, no spoilers, but it's really interesting to see how that plays out, I think, for the audience.
And Sarah, your role as Lizzy, Luke, do you feel that your character's there really to sway the rest of the women from one thought to the other, or are you how do you see Lizzy's role?
So Lizzy is very much motivated by human justice. So we see in that first scene between her and Mr. Coombs, he's very much representative of the law, justice and the law. So what is written in the law should happen, and those consequences come out. For Lizzy, she very much wants a human element in that. So it's more of a moral justice. So just because it says it in the law, is that really the outcome that should happen? And so when she hears that actually all the women in the room already have come to the conclusion that Sally is guilty and that she's not worthy of consideration, she feels in her heart of hearts that's injustice. So she needs to be there so that Sally gets heard, so that there is...
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because it touches on really the validity of modern day juries. And probably not dissimilar, I'm sure. It's a sort of a modern day court drama in many respects, where you have, do juries work? Should we have juries? You know, it's whether how seriously people take their role as being a juror, and whether it's like, well, actually, I've got a lot to do, I've got a wash to do when I get home, so can we just like speed this along?
And that's all reflected, like the characters there are really giving those things, and very practically, you know, they have to do their jobs to live and to work. So there is that in the play. There is the intellectual character we talked about, who does ponder more on how law is dispensed, and that she really wanted to be part of the jury, but of course it's a man's world, that's not going to happen for her.
Yeah, I think what's so interesting from my point of view, playing Sally, in the courtroom scenes, if you like, I'm very much an outsider to this group of women. These women are from, majority apart from one, are from the same village. They all see each other every day. Sally, on the other hand, She lives on the outskirts in about another village a few miles away, which at the time, obviously there's no cars, public transport wasn't really a thing. You wouldn't just pop into the next village to go to the shop. It'd take you a day to walk there.
So she doesn't really interact with the rest of the women.
But there are some amazing moments of unity that are very few and far between. But she has experienced a lot of the same things as the other women in the room. There are themes of abuse, rape, miscarriage, pregnancy, taking herself out to the woods to have a baby on her own because that was the only way to do it. So really touching moments that are incredibly hard to hear, I think, sometimes as an audience member. But I really do feel Lucy Kirkwood has done an amazing job at making it a really light and moments of lightness and real humour, which is just delicious to play with.
So in 3 words, how would you sum up the Welkin?
So for me, I think it is relevant, thought-provoking and surprisingly funny.
Is thought-provoking 1 word or 2?
I mean, there are some 2 words.
Hyphenated, is it? Okay,
there's some 2 words in there.
I'll let you off. Lucy, how would you describe it in 3 words?
I'd say hard, humorous and dynamic.
Nice. Well, ladies, thank you very much for joining. Dear listener, just to recap, the Welkin on our main stage from the 25th to the 29th of April. Tickets via our website and social media platforms. Just in case I need to remind you, www.putneyartstheatre.org.uk, and the booking link is on if you go to productions or even our homepage, it should be there. Do follow us on Facebook. If you're a member, there is a members Facebook group. If you're not on that already, let us know and we'll add you. Also, Friends of PTC, you can follow us that way, and Instagram and Twitter, and also for the kids out there, TikTok. I know, look at us. So we look forward to seeing you. Thanks very much, ladies.
Pleasure.
Enjoy your rehearsal today.
This is a real Putney Theatre Company production. Do share the podcast with your friends and take a look at our website, searching online for the Putney Theatre Company. So that's it for now. See you next time.